Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to our another episode of What's New in Dynatrace Observability Coding Series. Today we are here with Kale again for another session to take a look at our platform features of version 287. Hi Kale, how are things on your end?
Hi Berkan, happy to be here. Thank you. How about you?
All good for me, thank you. I think one day I will mix up your names with Miloš, but not this week. So let's see. As far as I see, it will be a short session today, so it's good to start now. And if you are ready, let's take a look at the agenda items for today. Okay. In the first parts, we will be discussing our playground environments. This is essentially a demo tenant where you can explore our Dynatrace capabilities and various technology integrations. Secondly, the main focus of our session will be on product updates. Kade is here to cover the new features released in version 287 for us. And finally, we will briefly talk about our community and the Dynatrace team resources that you can access whenever you need. Next slide, please. Oh, perfect. So to access our playground tenants, as you see in the first step, all you need is a trial account. Once you have that, you can navigate to the tenants and explore our capabilities, as well as various technology integrations. If you already have an account, you just simply click on the link provided in the second step of this page and start using our tenants. Additionally, we offer lots of tutorials that you can use as a resource to get familiar with our platform. Next slide, please. Here is the preview of the features that we are going to discuss today. And I think it's all on yours now.
Thank you so much, Berkan. Then let's get started. So the first part that we discussed today is the announcement. So for all of you that use the application security solution of our platform, we have a deprecation note. So about the event type. So as you can see here on this slide, when you fetch events with the event guide security event and the event category vulnerability management, there is the event type vulnerability impact change events. And this event type for the security events is deprecated from version 1.291. So please be aware about this. For a subsection of the deprecated change list entries, we have a mitigation. This mitigation, as you can see in the lower part of the slide, represents the usage of the event type vulnerability status change event with an additional filter, the event level entity. And we have this described in the release note precisely. And furthermore, we have this also in our notebook that you are probably already familiar with in our playground environment. And let me briefly show this to you. So when we now access the notebook that we will share with you as well, I have this summarized here from the release note where you can simply copy paste those queries and execute them in your environment to check this out. Basically, as said, this event type, vulnerability impact change event that we have here, will be deprecated with 1.291. And in the section, what you can do, we have this summary of the release note protocol, how to mitigate this deprecation by translating, for example, this query into the query below. And this will help you to handle this deprecation. One more thing to mention there that was also part in the slide is that the change list entry related entities.database count has no replacement. So if you have queries that addresses this entry, there will be no replacement. Okay. So as said, feel free to use this notebook to check it out. And if you have any question, let us know in the product chat that you can find here in the support. And we are glad to help you there.
Okay, so the event type is the one that deprecated here. And also another property. Can you please go down a little bit more?
Yeah.
And here the related entities database count is no replacement, right? These are the most
Yes.
important that's properties for now. Okay.
Yes. We have this query here added as an example to summarize the event change list. And inside the event change list, there is a value called related entities database count. So for this value in the event change list, we don't have any
Okay.
mitigation. Yeah.
Okay. The value of the event change is okay. I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's clear.
Yeah. So just to summarize it again, so for the event type that's deprecated, the vulnerability impact change event, we have this event type that brings the mitigation. Still, when using this event type versus using the previous one, as we can see here with the vulnerability impact change event, we cannot cover the values for the event change list value related entities database count. So this looks a bit complicated with those different dimensions. As said, have a look into this notebook. And for those of you familiar with those types of events, by just comparing the following query that can be replaced with the next one, you will find the mitigation and make sense of it.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. This brings us then to the next topic, which is the main focus today, the infrastructure part. But before I come to the infrastructure part, let me also mention one small feature that we added in the platform part, which is the email notification of sign in from new browser or location. So this is a feature that improves the account protection for non-federated user accounts. So whenever you, as a non-federated user, sign into Dynatrace from a new browser or another location, you will be notified via email. So if there is some suspicious action occurring, that you are notified.
I should test this. Okay.
Yeah. And now the actual part that I was announcing a few seconds ago, the infrastructure section, where we have some new features, mainly in the domain of Kubernetes. So we have some charts in Kubernetes in the new Kubernetes app, and there's now a small change that was introduced. Namely, for the charts where you have the number of pods and the number of allocatable pods, this is now changed to the number of running pods versus allocatable pods, because it makes it clearer what is running inside your cluster and how many pods are allocatable, or also inside the node perspective. Before, it was just the entire number of pods independent of the phase they are in. And it makes more sense to compare the number of running pods to the number of allocatable pods. And this change now makes the chart easier to read.
And it's available in the new Kubernetes application, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Then another change inside in the Kubernetes domain, we have now introduced new provider types that are detected and displayed on the Kubernetes node properties page. So this is both for the new Kubernetes app that you can use with DPS, as well as for the Kubernetes classic view that you are familiar with already in most cases. And as you can see here on the slide, when you check inside a Kubernetes node, the info tab, and you will find different properties. You can also filter the properties, and then you will see the provider type. And now with this new feature, we have a more granular, we have more granular values for the provider type. Next, also inside the Kubernetes properties on the cluster level, we now have the ActiveGate ID displayed as well with a link. So when you go to the Kubernetes cluster, to the properties, this also counts not only for the classic Kubernetes perspective that we have here on the slide, but it also counts for the new Kubernetes app, as we will see in some moments. And when you click on this ActiveGate link, you will be led to the deployment page and have the ActiveGate pre-selected immediately for you to make the navigation easier.
Okay, I think this is especially useful for configuration or troubleshooting needs, right? Before that, we were relied on the deployment status and relationship between agents, ActiveGates, or network zone. But now it's much easier to identify the ActiveGate, which communicates to the cluster directly, and you can directly go to the configuration files or the troubleshooting files to basically find the solution for your needs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so let's have a brief look into the infrastructure observability features. So let us start with the first one, which is when we look into a Kubernetes cluster. So this is in our playground environment again, where we have one Kubernetes cluster. And by clicking into the cluster, we will find a lot of useful data. And inside this new Kubernetes experience, we can navigate easily through the different tabs to the different levels inside our Kubernetes cluster.
Can you please open one more time the Kubernetes application from the apps screen? It will be nice to show it one more time.
Yeah, so you can either find it. Yeah, you can either find it in the search when you type in Kubernetes, and there you have the new Kubernetes app, and the one that we also showed inside the slide is the Kubernetes Classic that you are already familiar with. And now, in addition, we have the new Kubernetes app, the new Kubernetes experience. So I just clicked on it and it reopened right from where I stopped before. So to get to the overview of the new Kubernetes app, I'll just click on Kubernetes there. And this brings us to the starting page, so to say. What you can also do on the left side, you can also pin it to the dock saying you as a Kubernetes administrator, you need this app every now and then. So you want to have it fixated. And this is then the overview that we see. We can see here multiple clusters. So for site reliability engineers, for operation teams, for Kubernetes admins, it makes it really nice and efficient to navigate through the different Kubernetes areas at the same time. So the feature that we discussed today is that for the port charts we now use when you click inside one cluster, for example. So I just clicked into clusters. We can see here the list of our Kubernetes clusters. We have exactly one. So I will just click on this one cluster, which is on AWS. And when I click on this cluster, inside the utilization, we can find different useful charts for us that enable us to have a quick look into what's going on. We can see here also security status vulnerabilities, that some workloads have issues. But nevertheless, let's focus on what the actual feature is that we're discussing. And when I scroll down in the utilization tab, I will find the ports chart. And as said before, we had the number of all the different ports versus allocatable ports. Now we have it changed to only the running ports and the allocatable ports, which makes it clearer for you to understand how does it look in terms of resources that you have on your cluster. So this is the cluster perspective. You can do the same also from the nodes perspective. And if you're interested into studying your pods in your cluster, as said, with the new Kubernetes experience, you can also have a quick look into the pods, see the different state of them. As you can see here, running succeeded. You can reorder it. You can see failed pods. So just to make it even clearer, when we look into also the nodes perspective and into one node and also inside utilization, again, we now have for the pods chart only the running pods shown there versus allocatable pods. That makes it clearer for you as a Kubernetes administrator to understand the current state of your node or of the cluster as a whole.
Okay, that's nice. It's, I think,
Then,
better names, I will say.
Yep. Okay. And another feature that we have also in the Kubernetes domain is that now I allowed myself to pre-market the provider type that we mentioned. So inside Kubernetes nodes, we can see here, we are inside one Kubernetes node. And inside the properties and tags, you will now be able to find finer, granular provider type. So more different values. In this case, it's Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS. And the same information you can also find from the new Kubernetes app. So I'm showing here the classic Kubernetes perspective, but you can also find it from the new Kubernetes app. But just going to one node, we have it already open from before, inside the info. So inside the info, you can find the different metadata and including labels, annotations, conditions. And you can also find here the provider type, EKS, as you can see here. So this new feature is both for the new Kubernetes experience as well as for, as we mentioned, the classic perspective. All right. Last but not least, we also have the ActiveGate ID link inside the metadata, inside the properties and tags, also both for the classic Kubernetes and also for the new Kubernetes experience. Just be careful, where are you situated? It's in the cluster level. So here, it's not that we are inside one specific node, it's the cluster as a whole. And under the cluster as a whole, properties and tags, you can find the ActiveGate ID. You can click on it and you will reach the deployment status with the ID pre-selected to briefly find the info about the ActiveGate, to run ActiveGate diagnostics if there are some issues that you face, and this makes the navigation easier for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
and
same.
If we, for example, focus on a single agents or single hosts, we can still use deployment status to get ActiveGate, latest ActiveGates used by the host, right? I think that should be possible. So, for example, if you need to find which ActiveGates that you it communicates to your agents, you can also check from here, from this view. I think the filter should be like ActiveGate used by a host. I don't know. It's just that's what I remember. Could you please type use here so we can see directly? Not here, maybe in one agent's page.
One
agent
agent
page. Yep.
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah.
Here you can see the current use ActiveGates, exactly. So we have this now for cluster level, but also for agent level, it is available for you to find it. These are just the different places. I think it will be also maybe available in the future for other workloads. I don't know, but still it's a good progress, I would say, to have it at cluster level. So that's
that's really good mention to know how to navigate to the information. Also with the host perspective, which ActiveGates are used, how to filter this information, especially for the classic big environments that usually customers have with multiple thousands of nodes. This is really useful to use this filter to have it immediately shown which ActiveGate the host communicates with.
Definitely. All right, thank you.
One more thing that I just want to mention as well is that we demoed this on the classic Kubernetes UI, and you can also do this with the new Kubernetes experience. So when you go to the cluster, and let us select the EKS cluster, as it's the only one, you can also find this ActiveGate ID in the properties as well. So again, it's both for the new Kubernetes experience as well as for the classic Kubernetes UI that you're familiar with. All right. Then let us go from the infrastructure section into the product news section. So we have one product news shared that it's about Syslog. With this new product news, you can now bring Syslog logs data into Dynatrace using the OpenTelemetry collector, but not just any OpenTelemetry collector. It's the Dynatrace distribution of the OpenTelemetry collector. Before we go into this in more detail, let us just briefly summarize what Syslog is. So Syslog is a standard protocol for message logging and system logs management. So you can think of routers, firewalls, hosts, switches, and many other devices that use the Syslog standard to log users' activity, system software lifecycle events, status, or diagnostics. And what we now offer with this Dynatrace distribution of the OpenTelemetry collector, it's one more approach to bring the data to Dynatrace, to have the data consolidated, unified inside Dynatrace to give you a de-siloed and unified log management approach, to have a better understanding of your IT, of your business, and of those two parts in context. This also enables you to have also analytics powered by Grail for actionable insights and automation. So about the new Dynatrace distribution of the OpenTelemetry collector, why does it matter? With that, we provide a streamlined and supported way to collect logs using the Syslog protocol. So with this, we want to fill the requirement that enterprises have and make it more comfortable to stream the logs, the Syslogs, to the Grail data lakehouse. And what this brings for you is that you don't have to be concerned about unresolved bugs, lacking security updates, or lack of ownership, as happens in the open source space. With this, we bring the best of both worlds together, the enterprise support on the one hand, and on the other hand, the open source community contributions. So as we can see here on this slide, this is the architecture from the data where they appear, be it in Linux systems, on F5 devices, and so on. So any Syslog producer. The data is then sent to the OpenTelemetry collector, to the Dynatrace distribution of it, where you can perform different actions. You can define processing logic to mask some data, to filter out some data, and then you can send the data to Dynatrace or to other systems as well. You can send the data to two Dynatrace environments at the same time, for example, to your dev Dynatrace environment and also to a sandbox Dynatrace environment if you intend to do some tests. If we now look into the actual blog post, you will see here a richness of text describing the importance of Syslog for enterprises, describing the sending of Syslog data via OpenTelemetry collector, via the Dynatrace distribution of it. Just a second. And furthermore, an example how to configure this sending of data, how to leverage the data sent to Dynatrace inside a notebook, for example, and also what's next. So next, we will also bring to you sending Syslog data directly to environment ActiveGate endpoints that you can configure fully from your Dynatrace environment. And this will make it even easier to ingest Syslog data for specific use cases.
That's nice. That's really nice. think that many of our customers see the collectors as a potential solution for their needs, but they might not be able to deploy them in the production due to lack of enterprise support, as you mentioned. So that's really, hopefully, that will be helpful for of our users. It's this enterprise support level.
Exactly, yeah.
And at the same
I
time, of
agree.
course, they can continue to innovate from the community, and it can be added to our collector only after they are mature enough and have proven stability. So these are all also that mentioned in the blog post in our documentation. And there are also different use cases where Dynatrace collector that can play around, and it's also mentioned in the documentation, I believe. And Syslog is that one of them that I see it's really useful. So I would like to see the possibilities that we can do there.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Berkan. And you mentioned also the documentation. We have also the documentation there. So you can also check this out with a demo configuration, how to ingest syslogs via the Dynatrace distribution of the OpenTelemetry collector.
The use cases, is that the part. Can I see the use cases here on the left side?
Sure.
Click on the use cases on the main left page. It should be, right? Exactly. And Syslog is one of them, the collector. So that's
yeah,
really
there are
nice.
different use cases, as you mentioned. That's good to point out here. Syslog, but also FluentD, Zipkin, Jaeger, and other data, observability data that you can stream to Dynatrace.
Sounds great.
All right. One more resource I want to mention is also the Dynatrace Hub. That's really useful to check what we have with different technologies, including Syslog. And you'll also find the OpenTelemetry collector approach described here, how to get started with examples. So please be aware of the different resources that we offer to you and that you can leverage to gain quick value with Syslogs, for example. Last but not least, let me also go back to the notebook again. The focus for this product news is how to bring the data to Dynatrace using OpenTelemetry, more precisely the OpenTelemetry collector, the Dynatrace distribution of it with enterprise support. And in this notebook, just two use case examples, how you can leverage the Syslog data inside your environment. You can have an overview of the different statuses of your Syslog data. How about the error logs that you have, info, and so on. Quite abstract, an overview, but you can go from this abstract overview into so many details. Having a look into the individual error logs is just one example. From there, you can do much more, of course. Which brings us into the domain of general log analysis based on Grail with Dynatrace, be it parsing the content to find some patterns, to extract values, making time series data out of log data. And what also brings you so much value, what Dynatrace stands for, is the unified approach, the holistic view into your IT and business with all the data being in context. So also bringing the logs data in context with metric data, spans data, and other data types as well. But let's not go into that now, as this is another topic, just for you as an appetizer to understand what you can then achieve with having the data unified in Dynatrace. All right, this brings us then to the end of today's What's New in Dynatrace for the release 1.287. For the end, some feedback channels and resources where we are always happy to receive feedback from you. What do you think we can improve on? Are there some wishes that you have? Please let us know. And as well, we have here the resource, the webinars inside our Dynatrace University, where you can find a lot of helpful videos, also pretty short videos in the duration amount of 1 to a few minutes to gain a quick understanding of the different possibilities you have with Dynatrace And last but not least, please also use the live in-product assistance to get in contact with actual Dynatrace product specialists like myself and Berkan, where you can have a chat with us and ask all the questions related to Dynatrace that you may have, and where we will help you instantly to answer your questions. In some cases, when the queue is pretty long, you may have to wait for a few minutes, but usually you get answers almost instantly. That's it from my side. Berkan, the stage is yours for the last words.
Thanks a lot, Kale. You explained it really well, especially the last part. And thank you very much for your effort and time, as always. And I think that's all good on my end. So have a nice day, everyone. Hopefully see you again in one of the next releases.
Thanks for having me, Berkan. Hope to see you soon again.
Time.
Again.
Likewise.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.